Howdy, folks. I'm bountiful Como Bernice, beautifully billowing in blustery breezes.
I'm Amber.
And here are more blustery breezes for us to blow around in. Apparently, we are Bernice's hair. I don't know who Bernice is, neither does Amber, but that doesn't change the fact that it's true. Let's get started. Alright, folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Cutting My Mother-in-Law Off Because She Told My Daughter that she hoped that I would die when I was taken to the hospital? I'm a 30-year-old female and I was in a car crash. I had to be cut out of the car. I wasn't seriously injured though, thankfully. But the other person unfortunately wasn't doing as well. From what I saw before I was taken away to the hospital, I was told to stay in the hospital overnight to see if I suffered from a concussion. I rang my husband and I told him what had happened. My mother-in-law got the incidents mixed up when he dropped off our daughters, 6 and 11, to my mother-in-law, while he rushed to see me. The next morning, my husband brought our daughters with him to come and get me while I was being discharged. Upon seeing my 6-year-old, she busted into tears and said that she didn't want me to die. I comforted her and said that I'm not dying and I was very lucky. She then said that Granny said that she had hoped that I would die so that them and my husband can come and live with her. Me and my husband were shocked, and my 12-year-old confirmed that she had heard her say that. My husband said that he was going to ring his mother-in-law, or my mother-in-law. When he came back in the room, he looked furious, but didn't say anything until we got home, and said that mother-in-law denied it, but after he kept pushing, she ended up admitting it. But she said that she didn't mean it. I thought that me and her were close, but I guess not. I'm incredibly hurt that she would want that. And I said that I wanted me and the girls to have no contact with mother-in-law. I told him that he can have a relationship with her, but I don't want me and the girls to have one with her. My husband said he supports me. He then rang mother-in-law and told her what I had said. She did not take it well. She came to our house crying, saying that it was a misunderstanding and that she didn't mean it and that they were taking it the wrong way. My husband asked what did she mean then. She just got hysterical and started crying and saying that she was always just wanting our daughters and my husband was the only child due to her not being able to have any more after him, and that the girls are more like her daughters than granddaughters, and that she wasn't thinking properly when she said that to our 6-year-old. She got so worked up that my husband had to take her home. When he got back, he said that he didn't know that she felt like that and asked if I still wanted to cut her off, and I said yes. He said okay and didn't argue. But it's been a week now, and he is still very quiet and hasn't said much about what has happened, and now I'm starting to feel guilty and wondering if I did take it the wrong way and if I'm being the jerk. Alright, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. I think it's definitely the right thing to keep the girls away from grandma. It's very clear that she wants these girls to be her own. She would be happy if their mother died so she can raise them. Like, that is not good. That is not healthy.
I just don't know what's wrong with this woman. Like, even if she thought this, even if she was like, oh, I really want to have these kids as part of my family, in my house family and, being able to raise them and stuff like that. I don't know what would have possessed her to actually say this out loud to a 6-year-old and a 12-year-old, and, within earshot of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand her feeling lonely and that she wanted more children, and that's all fine. But that's a conversation that she should have with OP and say things like, oh, it would be really, I feel like I really have a strong connection with the girls. Can you bring them over more often? And, something like that.
Like, everything she conveyed here shows a lack of boundaries and understanding, like saying, oh, they feel more like daughters to me than granddaughters and whatnot. It sounds like she wants to be the parent and she doesn't care what has to happen for that to be the case. Mm-hmm. And so I think keeping the daughters away from her is the best course of action. She needs therapy. She can't just take other people's kids as her own.
Yeah, I feel bad for her, but I don't think that OP is in the wrong here, and I can understand why the husband would also feel a little conflicted, because she's really laying on the guilt heavy here, right? She's trying to guilt trip and be like, I only said this because I feel like you two all are so close family to me, But again, it's in such poor taste to wish that somebody would die.
Mm-hmm.
And then even be like, hey, girls, I wish your mother would die.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like so disturbing on a fundamental level.
Yeah, it shows that she's not the appropriate person to be taking care of children. Like, you do not say that to children.
Yeah.
Someone who says that should not be watching children.
Yeah, she should have been soothing them and saying, "Don't worry, your mother's going to be just fine, and everything's going to be just fine," type of thing, whether or not, and just help the girls get through a situation, not make it more stressful on them. It's very sad. It's very sad. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Laquilla says she traumatized your child. It was horrifying for your daughter to hear that. Bad enough that her mom was in the hospital after a car accident. As a young child, she likely had a whole lot of frightening scenarios going through her mind, unable to properly process that. Your daughter needed assurance and positivity. Not what that disgusting harridan said. Mother-in-law did mean it. You don't blurt something out like that out of misunderstanding or as a joke. That whole hysterical outburst that she put on in front of you, that was all BS. Manipulative BS. Because she got caught. And it seems to have worked on your husband because she's brainwashed him that way. Stand your ground. She needs at the very least a good long timeout. Do not let your husband or anyone sweep this under the rug, because doing that would make everyone think that it's perfectly okay for mother-in-law to hope that you died, for your daughters to lose their mother. That's sickening. I would make that a timeout for at least 6 months. Heck, I would make it for the rest of the year. So she loses out on the big holidays at the very least. This is very terrible. Not the jerk. And OK Perception 1131 says, I agree with all of this. Mother-in-law tears are manipulative. It's disgusting that she wished that you were dead, but it's unforgivable that she told a child that. I would go no contact for years. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for getting genuinely angry following the cruel prank that my friends pulled on me? I am totally ready to be made fun of for this, but I strongly believe in the paranormal. And one thing in particular that freaks me out to my core is mimicry. A spirit or entity taking on a human trait or appearance of a loved one to mess with you or lure you in. That kind of stuff gives me nightmares, and it's something that my friends are very aware of given how much I yap about it. Well, last week I was staying over at a friend's place along with a few more people. We had been hanging out together that evening and were too drunk to safely drive home, so we slept there. In the middle of the night, something woke me up, and while I was still in a daze and confused, I noticed that one of my friends was standing in the corner of the guest room. He was staring at me with a neutral demeanor, standing unnaturally still, and started whispering complete nonsense to me. Jumbled words forming meaningless sentences. Genuinely very creepy and very eerie. I could hardly breathe, and I was just frozen. I couldn't believe what was happening. I was still under the effects of the alcohol and had literally just woken up, and this felt like a surreal nightmare. After a bit, he started walking in a very robotic way to the bedroom door, never taking his eyes off me, and then he left the room. That kind of made me snap out of my frozen state, and I started considering that it was a prank. I got up and I rushed out only to see him sleeping on the couch. However, there were two girls awake in the kitchen, chatting quietly. That would have definitely seen him get up, but when I asked, they said that they didn't see him get up. I started freaking out at that moment, and I just locked myself in the guest room, and I barely managed to sleep. I was terrified of that thing coming back. In the morning, I was eager to tell everyone about what had happened to me, which I did. They all listened attentively until the end, when they just told me that it was a joke. He was acting, the girls had lied. They were just messing with me. I just stood there without saying a word, and then I went to pick up my things and go. I was about to leave when one of the girls from the previous night blocked the door and told me just to chill out, that I was overreacting. I mumbled something along the lines of, "Get out of the way, you lying bee." And then she did. As I walked home, I realized that I was crying. When I got home, I checked my phone, and I had tons of messages about overreacting, going too far with the beeline, and making too big of a deal out of a simple prank. Some time had passed, and I feel a bit bad about my reaction, but part of me feels like it's been justified. I think that it wasn't an unfair reaction to learning that my friends had used my beliefs against me while I was in a vulnerable state just for a laugh. Edit, I feel the need to explain my beliefs. While I don't consider myself a Native American, I do have a lot of Native ancestry and family. And most of what my family has passed down from that culture are those legends and tales of creatures and spirits. Growing up, I was told these stories a lot and had always had a fascination for them as well as a respect and fear for the things that they speak of. If you find it dumb, so be it, but it's how I was raised and it's part of my culture. Alright folks, what do you think?
Not the jerk, and those people are not your friends. They decided to take something they know you're terrified of and then like do this to you in the middle of the night. Like, I don't even necessarily believe in ghosts, but if I saw someone, one of my friends, just like standing acting weird in the corner of my room at night, I'm gonna be freaking out. Like, it's a creepy thing for anyone, but to specifically do that knowing this is one of your biggest fears is really cruel and not good at all.
So, one time, I was watching the History Channel when I fell asleep, right? And this was a long while back. And I woke up in the middle of the night and they were doing a documentary on demon possessions. And at that moment, they played a video tape recorder backwards, and it was a demon saying something along the lines of, I have your soul now, or something like that, right? Just completely, like, freaking out. And, like, the thing is this, right? It's the History Channel. And, I mean, at the time, History Channel hadn't gone down the way that it has.
Ancient aliens.
Yeah, ancient aliens. So it was more reputable at the time.
Yeah.
But I was just completely freaked out at the moment when I woke up to that. I was like, this is enough TV at this point in time, turning that off.
Yeah.
And like, when you're in a half asleep state, sometimes things seem more realistic and more scary in the paranormal sense, right? And I can certainly understand OP being hurt and upset with what their friend said. I may not agree with him insulting the other friend and calling her a B, but I do think that he has every right to be upset about this, right? And then, on top of that, invading his personal space when he was sleeping to have somebody stare at him, I mean, that's kind of wrong in a lot of ways, unless you're Edward Collins, I guess.
Well, Edward Collins has some issues too, but then there's also the whole fact that, like, even if they thought this was a harmless joke, the fact that they doubled down and are like, you're overreacting shows just the big issue there. Because, like, if it was a genuine misunderstanding, they should have been apologetic. They should have been falling all over OP, being like, I am so sorry. I thought you would find this funny, all that sort of stuff. So it just shows a fundamental disregard for OP.
Well, and I mean, I think, people at OP's ages, they tend to do a lot of pranking and stuff like that, and especially when they get together to have a party like this. And whether that's right or wrong, I think that it is kind of one of those things where the people, have their party fouls and light hazing, so to speak. And certainly, I don't think that that's necessarily right, but they probably just got a kick out of, like, freaking him out. And I think that he didn't overreact, and this was something that he has a sincere held belief of. And it's unfortunate that they don't seem to respect his beliefs. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. Alright folks, and our next letter is an update. Am I the jerk for telling my husband I told you so and laughing at him when we got the paternity test results?
Yeah, so this story is from a little while back, and basically OP's husband demanded a paternity test out of the blue. OP took a paternity test, even though OP knew that this was his kid, and his mom had been saying nasty stuff like, we're going to take you to the cleaners if it turns out this kid isn't his. Well, lo and behold, the kid is his. OP laughs, and he has an absolute freak out and goes crying to mommy.
I'll start off this post by saying thank you for all the advice and support that I was given. You all gave me a firm kick in the butt to get myself divorced. Also, sorry for leaving you in the lurch for the past 2 months. Alright, here's the update. After making my post, I decided to search for divorce lawyers in my area with my sister. It took a while, but I managed to find and meet one who was willing to do a virtual consultation. During this, my ex was not contacting me at all, but I did reach out to see if he was okay. Eventually, once he actually got served, my ex came back to our house and tried pleading with me not to go through with the divorce. He said that he loved me more than anyone and that we could go to couples therapy. During this, my ex slipped up and admitted to cheating on me when he first left me. And he said that he got caught up with his coworker trying to explain his weeks-long absence. At first, I didn't realize who he was talking about because he was referring to her by her nickname. Think Viv or Vivian. But my brain kicked back into gear and I asked if he was getting caught up with her was code for that he had slept with her. My ex stumbled over his words and tried to dodge the question, and he seemed to realize, though, that I wasn't going to give up on this. He admitted that he was going to her for emotional support before our baby was born, since he was nervous about being a dad, and eventually slept with her during the time that he left. So you guys were right about him cheating. I had heard enough at this point, and I told my ex point blank that we were going to get a divorce. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, and that I wanted 50-50 custody. We had only been speaking about the divorce, custody arrangements, and our daughter after this. My ex just nodded to what I was saying and asked if he could see our daughter. I was a bit hesitant, but I said yes, and I called my sister to have her bring our daughter down to the living room. My ex held our daughter and talked to the baby for a little bit before leaving. My sister asked me if I was all right after he was gone, and I said that I was okay. My mother-in-law did try to harass me over the phone about me divorcing my ex, but then I had already blocked her, so she went to my sister and said, I guess my mother-in-law was never told that I owned the house that my ex and I previously shared, since she texted my sister, saying that I was going to be on the streets. Well, my mother-in-law certainly knows that now, since my ex is now living with her and moved out. My ex has seen our daughter a few times. Those visits were awkward to say the least, but I managed. Hopefully, I won't have to give you guys any more updates about this. All right, folks, what do you think?
I mean, it's an unfortunate situation, but it's a good thing that OP is getting this man out of her life.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really what this boils down to. And on that top of all that cheating, like the mother-in-law accusing OP of cheating only for the ex to actually be the one who's cheating.
Yeah, well, and you can guess that probably this was on his mind because he was having at least an emotional affair at that point in time.
Well, he might have been having an emotional affair. It's really hard to say because we don't have super clear context around it. And he could have been emotionally unfaithful to her. And I'm not saying that that's not a possibility.
Well, I was just saying because he started going to this coworker for emotional support while OP was pregnant.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be surprising if that developed into an emotional affair.
I wouldn't be surprised either. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I think that she was more than willing to help stoke those fires of questions about faithfulness or whatnot, it seems. Maybe like she didn't even say, well, let's hold off on anything until the paternity test, or well, I mean, they had the paternity test at that point in time, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So if they had already had the paternity test, then it means that he just willingly went and cheated on her, knowing that he was the father. So I think he just was looking for an excuse to kind of step outside of the relationship at that point in time. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here. And Amber, she has a joke.
What might you call a cloth covered in A's, E's, I's, O's, and U's?
What do you call a cloth covered in A, E, I, O, and U? The vowels? Well, I call it a cloth covered in vowels.
Or a vowel towel.
Oh, a vowel towel. I see. That's very clever. And I have Mega Mint. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Manic Monday. I hope your Monday is going well. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance. And please have it involve words and actions that you can't take back.
Whenever possible, try and think before you act and speak because you won't always get another chance.
Well said, well said. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye!
I had heard enough at that point, and I told him that I had heard enough at that point, and I told my ex point blank that we were going to Ring, 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 ring. Green, 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 green. We're greening a divorce. You know when those videos of the cats that are talking, that's kind of how I feel sometimes. Rang, 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 Long Johnson.